Hey y'all, welcome to episode 2, part 2 of Separated Hearts Coping with Parental Separation and Mental Health. And here we go.
Now let's transition into our next segment as I dig deeper into understanding parental separation and the effect that it has to do on mental health. The situation that I'm dealing with, is parental separation by definition. Parental separation, its effect on the mental health for the parent. There was an article that I read. It was called positivepsychology.com is where I got the article from. And the article was titled, "What is Separation Anxiety?" And it was by Gabriella Lancia, PhD. And this she wrote in 2021. When parents are separated from their children, they can often experience negative emotions such as worry and anxiety. And I can attest to that because those are emotions that I did experience after being separated from them. The negative emotion, especially of anxiety and worry, both of them actually. Being worried that when am I going to see my kids again? Experiencing a lot of like heart racing moments when it really shouldn't be. Sometimes I would sleep and in the middle of the night I would feel my heart racing, or sometimes I would wake up in the morning and feel my heart racing. And it would cause me to think about what I was thinking of or what I was dreaming about. And it would always have something to do with my children. Me not being there and seeing them every day was like I was once. It was hard to say, okay, well, what are they doing? You know what I'm saying? How are they going about their day to day? What are they doing in school? How are they doing in school? And if they're not doing as well as I think they should be doing, I want to be more. There's things that I want to do, but I can't, because I don't have the access to them physically that I used to have, and I don't have the control of their environment like I used to have. So I couldn't really. It took me a while to really be able to gather a better understanding of how to move forward. I was just kind of stuck in that instance. And there's some study as well, not study necessarily, but in the article that I was reading, it goes on to say that when separation happens when it's not supposed to, so in my case, basically, it wasn't because of it wasn't something that you could prepare for. In this instance, it was more like I thought I was going to take my children with me, and it came to be that I could not take them with me because, as he should, their father wanted to keep them there. When you're dealing with that kind of situation, if you didn't have it previously set in the courts, then the child is to stay where they were living. You can't just uproot a child, especially if a parent wants to keep the child where they've been residing for a certain period of their lives. So I couldn't just up and take them without his permission, and I didn't have his permission. So and when I left, we were still together in a sense. We were trying to get back on track. So it wasn't like I was leaving them and with the thought of, since he and I wasn't seeing eye to eye, I wouldn't understand when I was going to be able to see them again. It wasn't like that. It was more like we were trying to work things out, but it was understood that I needed to leave and go back to Virginia to discover my purpose. So the strain that I experienced after I left was not expected, and me not being able to see them for a drawn out period of time was not expected. It was planned that they were going to come and see me for my birthday, which was a couple of months after I left. Also a couple of months after I left there, because I went to see my child for his birthday, my oldest for his birthday, in the same month that I left. So it wasn't, I didn't know that the events were going to happen in the way that they did. And so that was abrupt. When the separation happens, when it's not supposed to, the type of separation wasn't supposed to be that way in my mind. I wasn't expecting that. So the turn of events made it something that was more of an abrupt change. And in cases like that, this article, thepositivepsychology.com, was mentioning when the separation happens like this, it can turn a parent's identity upside down. It can totally turn their identity upside down. It can make them feel like they lost everything, basically. Lost the whole understanding of who they were. I was a wife, yes, but my main title, my main identity was their mother. Because I had been their mother for, up to that point, it was 7-8 years I had been a mother. So it was like, well, if I can't mother the way I was mothering, what in the world am I supposed to be doing? How am I supposed to move forward in this? What am I supposed to do with this? How do I function? How do I continue on when my whole identity was wrapped inside of that title as being their mother? But the funny thing is, something I wasn't thinking of at that moment is that I was looking for my purpose. And my purpose was outside of, you know what I'm saying, outside of being a mother. My purpose is not designed in being a mother. Okay? The reason why I was created, the reason why I'm here on this earth is not just being a mother. And I venture to believe that it's not even the mother tag. It might have something woven into the why I was created, but it is not the basis. It's not the foundation. It's not the purpose. And so if I were able to think more clear, I would not have totally lost it emotionally when I left. You know, I would have stayed focused and understanding, okay, yes, I am a mother. I'm going to have to do this job differently because I understand that the way that I was mothering before in their physical presence is not the same way I'm going to be able to mother now being long distance. So if I were able to grapple with it, but it's hard. When you lose your identity, there is something that you thought you were, it's hard to refocus, you know, because where is the focus? Cut.com's The Psychological Effects of Being Separated from Your Child by Carrie Rom, her 2018 article made a good point too, that like I was saying, not a lot of research regarding parents' mental health and well-being. There's not a lot of it. You know, so as I was researching, I'm researching, and I'm not finding a lot of articles that have that connection to the parent's mental health and not just solely the child. So definitely needs to be more research done on the parent. Now, the cool thing about this article in The Cut, it was really focused on the immigration movement. This was written in 2018 when it was really a big thing, the border, Mexicans coming over the border and them being detained and then separated from their children. And the amount of children that were separated from their parent and the amount of parents that were separated from their children, the numbers were astounding. Now, I did not write the numbers down because I was not focused on that in particular, but no matter your nationality, okay, no matter the gender, when you lose a child so abruptly like that, to just be snatched away from your child, what they were saying in this article is that that's a form of punishment. It's not something that is written because there's not a lot of research about it, but you can guarantee that is a form of punishment towards the parent and the child. But because my focus right now is on the parent, like I said, when you identify as a parent and then all of a sudden that title is stripped from you, unbeknownst to yourself, like you not that you decided to do that, or even if you did decide to do it, I would venture to believe, but especially so when you didn't decide that is really hard on you. Another note that they mentioned, forceful separation is particularly damaging explains clinical psychologist Mia Smith Bynum, a professor of family science at the University of Maryland. She goes on to say, when parents feel there's nothing in their power that can be done to get their child back, that is damaging to them. It's damaging to their mental health. It's damaging to their emotional health. It's damaging because that is my child. and now I have no claim to that child. I have no rights to that child anymore. Yes, I do have rights to the child, but my say doesn't matter anymore. I can't decide. I can't make decisions on the behalf of my child, and whatever is happening to my child is totally out of my control. And that is how I felt. That is how it was for me. It wasn't just how I felt, it's what it was. It's actually what I had no say. Things were happening with my children, good, bad, or different. Their day-to-day routines, when they do homework and when they eat and how they eat and what they eat, how they do their homework and how they treat each other, how they talk to each other. I couldn't control the environment of who they were around. I couldn't control the environment of what people were saying to them. And I know I can't do that anyways, even if I was physically there with them. Okay, so I do get that. However, when you're with your child physically and they live with you, you have a better control of most of their time, especially when they're younger and they can't just go out and do the X, Y, and Z without your knowledge or without you, because they can't go anywhere on their own, as a child. And so that was really damaging to me. There's another piece of that article. That article is really where I got a lot of my information, because like I said, there wasn't a lot of research. But this article really hits on a lot of things that I feel like I experienced as well. A grief response is to be expected after a separation. Sadness and despondency, problem sleeping, tearfulness, changes in energy, problems keeping up with a daily routine. And I can attest to that as well. I had a hard time keeping up with a daily routine. I had a hard time staying awake. I had a hard time being a part of a social environment, because I was sad a lot. I was sad a lot, very tearful, cried about everything. Everything made me cry. I was so sensitive. You can blow on me the wrong way and I will cry, because like I said, I was super sensitive in that time when it first happened, especially the first year and a half was the most difficult for me, because again, it wasn't until 22 that I was allotted visitation after the divorce was finalized. And that's a game of the court. That is a game of the court. And I kind of want to go into that just a little bit. I want to segue into that a little bit, and then I'll swing back. Let's use the pendulum strategy here for a second. When we were going through, now again, this is not about the divorce. This is more so about the separation from the children. But in order to get a divorce, you have to make sure you have custodial custody all figured out. So with the custody, when it came down to everything, we had to figure out how we were going to see the kids. But with the attorneys, they'll try to make it so that the other parent doesn't see the child prior to getting it settled. Why that happens, I really don't know. I guess they try to scare the other parent into thinking that the other parent is that the parent who has a child, they try to scare that parent into thinking that the parent who doesn't have a child is going to try to take the child away from them. So, which is crazy to consider, because if I try to take the child and we're already in court proceedings, that's bad on me. So why would that even be in consideration? I have no idea, but that was a part of the reason why I wasn't able to see my children up until the custody proceedings were settled. And so, like I said, that was about a year and a half almost before I was able to see my children. And like I said, coming from seeing them on a day-to-day basis, Maybe before that time frame, I'd say maybe 4 months before that, we started to do 1 week, 1week on, 1 week off. When we were living, because we were separated, and so even that was like saddening for me. It was saddening for them too, but it was saddening for me because I was going from seeing them every day, and he would like get them on weekends and stuff like that. So I was going to see them from every day to not seeing them for a whole week. It was something that I had to deal with then. And then to go from that to not seeing them at all, not being able to touch them, feel them, hug them, kiss them, which is things that I do on a day-to-day basis with my children. Not be able to do that anymore. Very heart-wrenching, very hard. So the sadness and the despondency and problem sleeping, after all of that happened, for that year and a half, I was experiencing all of that tremendously. Ambiguous loss: when a parent never gets the closure they need to fully resolve their grief. That is ambiguous loss. The child is out there, but the parent is not able or not sure if they'll be able to parent and or take care of their child again. So I wasn't under the impression that I wasn't going to be able to take care of my child again, but I was not sure when that was going to happen again. I wasn't sure. Throughout that year and a half, it was mind-wrenching for me, but having to pay for lawyers and things like that, and having the money sometimes and not having it others. Like, when am I gonna, the court system is so slow, like, when am I gonna be able to see my kids again? The being unsure and being uncertain, for me, I guess I can take that in as ambiguous loss a little bit at that time, because I wasn't sure when I was going to be able to parent again. I wasn't sure when I was going to be able to take care of my kids, when I was going to hold them again, when I was going to touch them and hug them and love on them again. I wasn't sure. I didn't know. Not until the paperwork was signed. And then I was granted visitation to see them, could go and get them or whatever and bring them back here with me during the times that they weren't in school. And for me, that is still not enough time with them. But I take it, of course, because I needed to see my children. So I took the time that I could get until I can get more. But that was a huge win for me. Because when I was able to see my kids again, it was like, oh man, it was like a breath of fresh air. Like, even my kids, like, we really really enjoyed. That was a moment. That was a whole moment. And I'm gonna have to definitely share the pictures, on the Journey to Free Facebook and Instagram page. I'm gonna share the pictures after I drop this episode, because I want y'all to see. If I had video clips, I so would post those too, just so you can see and taking that moment with me, because it was really a moment to have. Another mention is that there needs to be a strong and stable support system in place when situations like this is happening. Otherwise, the stress can be overtaking. It can be overtaking and overwhelming. If I were not here with my family, like I said, in Florida, I didn't have any family. I didn't have any friends. The people that I spent the most time with was either his family or the church that I was going to at the time. And it's wonderful, having people who care about you, but to not be around your family, people who are obligated to love you. And in my family, we're obligated to love each other, and we love each other. You know what I'm saying? So it's not a type of family where like everybody's estranged. No, we love each other and we show each other that love. You might not be like some families, not the Brady Bunch, okay? Full house. It ain't Family Matters, but family matters, you know what I'm saying, to us. And we show each other love in our own ways, and I wasn't experiencing that in Florida. I didn't have that type of support system. I'm sure there's people there who would feel like they gave me as much as they could, and that's totally understandable. but it wasn't my family. It wasn't family. It wasn't that strong and stable support system that I have, that I do have access to. So had I been going through this away from my family, I don't know if I would have lasted. I would have probably went back, and there were so many times that I wanted to go back. Like, guys don't even understand. I wanted to go back to Florida so many different times, but I had given up my apartment. I had given up everything. There was nothing for me to go back to. Getting a divorce, there was nothing to go back to. There was no home. There was no place. There were no people, so there was no way. But I venture to believe that it was actually a good thing for me that it wasn't. Because although I missed my children, and yes, that was a heavy burden it wasn't really until 2023 that I really started to see some kind of like relief in the emotional mental department. That I started to see some kind of glimmer of hope. Started to see the light, in all of its essence, though it was like glimmers of light. I was starting to see it because I was in complete darkness before that. I think that being back here, being back home with my family, and being away from my children caused me to have to look at things in a different way. It caused me to have to focus on my mental health. It caused me to have to deal with my emotions. It caused me to have to deal with things within myself. Because the inner me is important, and that is who I am. And if I'm totally lost in other titles and placements, then how do I really discover myself? And being there, I was totally just whatever anybody wanted me to be. And that included my children. And I'm not saying I was like the best at it, but I definitely did my best to be whoever I needed to be in whatever situation I was in. However, what about who I am supposed to be, who I'm called to be, who I'm born to be, who I've been placed on this earth to be, to do the things that I'm supposed to succeed in doing? You say, like, what about that person? And I couldn't find that person. I couldn't find that person then. And coming here after all the emotions settled, the dust settled, after I was able to see my children again, after the routine of me being able to talk to my kids again, because they're then created a routine, and then they got phones, and so now I'm got them phones, and so now I can talk to them whenever, text them whenever, still talk to them between certain times. But that's okay too, because it forms a routine. It's important to have a routine. If you are a parent who lives separate from their children, and you're trying to rebuild your relationship, or you're continuing on the relationship with your child, it is important to form a routine for you and the child. Yes, for the child especially, but for you too, because as the parent, you matter. That's why it's no real emphasis on the parent and their mental health when there is some kind of parental separation. There is no real research on it, because I don't know how much people really think of it, but your mental health as the parent does matter. You matter. Yes, you're the adult. Yes, maybe you decided to leave. Yes, maybe. And yes, maybe. You fill in the blank. But at the end of the day, you still have feelings and emotions that you have to deal with in order to come to a place where you're okay. Because you are okay, and you will be okay. You might not feel like it at the time, but you will be okay. I am here to say. Because I stand here today and I am okay. I did not have words, to put. I could not express the way that I was feeling without crying, without falling all over myself. I mean, if you would have saw me in 2020 and 2021, yeah, I was, getting my business together and I was doing this and that. But if you were to get me alone, steal some moments away from me, you would see me cry, because we would probably somehow, some way be talking about my kids somehow. You would see me crying. You would feel my pain. And it's agony. It's agony. It's sheer agony. It's sheer agony. And so, those are the ways that the parental separation, those are the ways that your mental health can be affected as the parent. And I identify with those ways of being affected, because I myself went through that and experienced those emotions. But there are ways that you can deal with it. There's ways that you can deal with it. And that's what I want to speak on next. I want to speak on the coping skills and the coping strategies that I was able to use to get through the situation. Again, I'm not all the way out yet. I still got work to do. But I have come to a place where there are certain things that I use, certain skills that I use, certain practices that I use that have helped me get to the point where I'm at right now, and I want to share those next. Don't forget to join the community. I have a Facebook group called Journey to Freedom. I also have a Facebook page for this podcast, Journey to Freedom. Subscribe. My link tree is going to be in the show notes, as well as I'm sure will be in the comments for the Facebook page. Subscribe to my podcast and subscribe to my email list so that you can be up to date and current in all the newest events that are going to go on. I plan to do prizes and raffles, so become a journeyer if you haven't already. Also, if you have a mental health story that you would like to share, if you've experienced a mental crisis, if you are going through one right now and you need some support, or you have gone through and you want to provide support, come on my show. I'd love to have you as a guest, as well as join the community so that you can provide the support that other people may need, and so that you can receive the support that you may need. Okay? So join the group, join the conversation, because mental health.
Again, I want to thank you for watching episode 2, part 2. Look forward to next Friday, where part 3 will be discussed, and I will go into detail about coping skills, which are so important and so vital. So again, I look forward to seeing you then.